Hello guys, welcome back on my channel. This is Zombie and today we will watch a video, the third episode of the Napoleon series by Epic History TV. So let's go.
An Epic History TV PMF Productions collaboration. In 1796, at the height of the French Revolutionary Wars, a young French general took charge of a ragged, demoralized army in northern Italy. It was his first command. Many expected him to fail. Instead, in just 1 month, he won his first brilliant campaign. With astonishing self-confidence, boldness and energy, he led his army to victory after victory, transforming the war in Europe, winning praise from a grateful republic, and forging a legend. This is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte's first campaign, and the dawn of a new age.
Epic History TV is so incredible. The music and the Napoleon series is the best, in my opinion. Even more the in Italy, because in case you don't know, the last episodes or Napoleon in Italy, he did like his first video. I mean, their first video was the Battle of Waterloo. So chronologically, the last battle of Napoleon, but it was his first video on Napoleon. And so yeah, that's kind of great. And what I wanted to say already. Oh yes, I saw that I uploaded the two first videos of the series, and there are already like 7 subscribers. That's crazy, guys. I didn't accept that it would interest people already. I mean, that's still small, but for me that's huge. From 0 to 7, like yeah. So I'm happy that there are some people that like my videos, and but thank you guys for the support.
May 1796. The French Revolutionary Wars have entered their 5th year. And on what most consider to be a secondary front, there has been a stunning development. A 26-year-old general of the French Republic, Napoleon Bonaparte, has waged a lightning campaign across northern Italy, defeating the Kingdom of Piedmont-Sardinia and driving the Austrians across Lombardy. 2,000 Austrian troops remain holed up in Milan's citadel, but they cannot prevent his triumphal entry into the city on the 15th of May. Now, the French general holds court at the Palazzo Serbelloni, issuing decrees on behalf of the Directory in Paris, while his troops enjoy several days' rest. Lombardy is to be reorganized as a French client state, known as the Lombardic Republic. Political and economic reforms sweep away the old Austrian state, to the delight of Italian intellectuals in cities like Milan. But the French also demand 20 million francs to help pay for the war, while their troops requisition vast quantities of food, horses, cattle, and boots.
Yeah, basically at this point, as I said in the later video, second episode of the series, that back at this point the French state was was broke, and there was a huge economic crisis. So it was broke for many reasons. One of them was the American Revolution, because the French monarchy, weirdly enough, helped weirdly enough, it was against the British, but they did that. But yeah, basically they made a huge loan to the USA, and the USA, when they got their independence, didn't pay back. So the monarchy was kind of ruined by that, but that's not the only reason, but it's one of the big factors. And also there was a big economic crisis, and as the debt was huge, mainly because of what I said about the American Revolution. They did print a lot of money, so it made imperial inflation. So the prices rose a lot. I think also the British, I don't know much about this story, but I think that the British helped to fuel this hyperinflation because they printed francs to make inflation worse, I believe. So yeah, and so what they did was to pay the army, and as you saw, when in informal ways, like the army plunder, but also here they demand huge sums and food and other equipment to fuel the French army.
Most inflammatory are their attacks on the property and dignity of the Catholic Church, which enrage Italian priests and peasants.
Yeah, so basically at this point it was a republic, and it's not like other republics, like we talk about the American Republic, it was very pro-Christian, but the French Republic, it's born out of anti-Christianity, especially anti-Catholicism. So yeah, and Northern Italy was very Catholic, so yeah, naturally the soldiers could get away with a lot of anti-Catholic stuff.
And are a gift to anti-French propagandists. On the 23rd of May, as Napoleon's troops set off in pursuit of the Austrians, revolt breaks out in Pavia. The next day, there are riots in Milan. Napoleon races back to the city, where order is soon restored. But on the road to Pavia, at Binasco, he encounters 1,000 armed rebels. Colonel Lannes' grenadiers rout the peasants, killing 100 and burning the village. A terrible example, which will be effective, Napoleon writes. Pavia is retaken the next day, with little opposition. A score of ringleaders, including several priests, are shot. Hundreds of hostages are taken from prominent local families to ensure future cooperation. Napoleon resumes his advance east. His army now organized into 4 divisions: Kilmain's advance guard, Augereau, Massena, and Serrurier. General Berlioz's Austrian army holds the line of the Mincio River, with Lake Garda on his right and the great fortress of Mantua on his left. This, together with the fortresses at Peschiera, Verona, and Lagnago, forms the famous quadrilateral, 4 bastions that cement Austria's grip on northern Italy. But once more, Berlioz can't get a read on Napoleon's movements. He scatters his troops, trying to defend 4 potential crossing points, and is further distracted by fake preparations to cross Lake Garda by boat. In fact, Napoleon has decided to cross the Mincio at Borghetto, and when Kilmain's advance guard arrives, they find the bridge defended by a single battalion of infantry and handful of hussars.
The strategy that Napoleon does a lot is that he divides his forces and fake stuff, so the enemy divides even more, and then as Napoleon, his corps are very fast and he has a very effective ways of communication and also of intelligence gathering through scout, etc. He's able to suddenly put all his force together, and also as he's very bold and doesn't hesitate to take action, he concentrates rapidly and attack one point, and this point naturally, as the enemy is spread out, is relatively weak, and he can pierce through enemy defenses that way. I mean enemy defenses on a large scale, not a battle scale, if you get what I mean here. But yeah.
Battalion of infantry and handful of hussars.
Concentrate his force, single point.
The Austrians are soon
and
driven
as
back.
He's proactive, he has the initiative advantage because he chooses where the fight is going as he takes action first, so it gives him a huge advantage. That's his strategy. It's called the the attack in details, I believe. That overall Napoleon doesn't have a number advantage, or even he has less numbers, but he's able to gain a local superiority through what I said. So he has an impressive record of winning things that on paper aren't in his favor.
But a sudden counter-attack nearly bags General Bonaparte himself. A possibly dramatized account has him hopping over fences with one boot on to evade the hussars. This lucky escape leads to the formation of an elite cavalry detachment to act as Napoleon's personal escort. They are named the Compagnie des Guides à Cheval. Their commander is a young cavalry captain named Jean-Baptiste Bessières. In time,
will
this
become
unit will
a marshal
become
of
the famous
Napoleon.
chasseur à cheval of the Imperial Guard, the Emperor's ever-present bodyguard on campaign. Taken by surprise by the crossing at Borghetto, Beaulieu begins a withdrawal to a new defensive line in the Adige Valley. However, at Mantua, he leaves behind a reinforced garrison, well supplied and ready to withstand a siege of at least 2 months. Napoleon cannot bypass Mantua. Its garrison is too powerful. But the fortress city will be a tough nut to crack. Its old walls surrounded on 3 sides by a lake and on the other by malarial marshland. The most unhealthy place in Italy, Napoleon tells the Directory. His biggest problem is his lack of heavy siege artillery. Most of these guns are in Milan, bombarding the Austrians, still holed up in the citadel. More guns were supposed to arrive by sea, but have been intercepted by British warships, commanded by a certain Commodore Horatio Nelson.
Pesky Brits.
Since April, Napoleon has launched 3 successful offensives, marched more than 200 miles, and won 10 battles. But finally, outside the walls of Mantua, he is brought to a halt. And the demands on his limited force are growing. He must maintain the siege of Mantua, even though its guns outnumber his own and no direct assault can be made. He must protect his lines of communication back to France and guard against further revolt in Lombardy. And he must be ready to face the Austrians, who are receiving reinforcements from Germany and will soon counterattack. To add to his problems, the French Directory demands that he lead an expedition to central and southern Italy. He's to threaten military occupation unless these states cough up huge sums to help fund the French war effort. Napoleon vehemently opposes the idea. Marching troops the length of Italy in high summer, he warns, will end in sickness and death. Fortunately, strong words alone persuade Naples to sign an armistice. And in the end, Napoleon doesn't even have to go as far as Rome. The French march through the Duchy of Modena, the Papal States, and the Grand Duchy of Tuscany, raising more than 40 million francs in tribute from states that are powerless to resist. Napoleon dines in Florence with the Grand Duke before returning to Milan. There he is reunited with his wife, Joséphine, who's arrived from Paris, discreetly accompanied by her new lover. Napoleon does not linger in Milan. Its citadel has finally fallen, freeing up his siege guns. His troops have seized another 150 guns from the forts of central Italy. Napoleon can now make serious plans to take Mantua, and he has no time to lose. In the Tyrol, the reinforced Austrian army is beginning to stir, under a new commander.
By the way, just to remember some fun fact, I believe that Hippolyte, one of her main lovers, of Joséphine, Napoleon's wife, has a street name in Paris. That's a fun fact.
Berlioz is gone. Now, 72-year-old Field Marshal Count von Wurmser is in command. A courageous cavalryman, vigorous beyond his years, and determined to avenge Austrian defeats in Italy. Since crossing the Mincio, Napoleon has reorganized and redeployed his forces. General Massena's division is near Rivoli, watching the road to the Tyrol. Two of his brigades, under General Sorre, are at Salo, watching the western side of Lake Garda. General Despinois' division is in support at Peschiera. General Augereau's division is around Legnago, watching the eastern approaches, while Kilmain's cavalry mounts patrols. General Serrurier's division carries out the siege of Mantua itself. But Napoleon's hopes for a rapid conclusion to the siege are in vain. The Austrian garrison conducts a skillful and active defense, raiding French entrenchments and seizing supplies. Murat, recently promoted to brigadier general, plans to lead a group of men in Austrian uniform across the lake at night to take the guards by surprise. But the operation's abandoned when the water level suddenly drops. The French step up their bombardment of the city, firing more than 1,000 cannonballs and mortar shells in one 6-hour period. Mantua is being...
I'm wondering, when was it Murat, I believe, that tried to sneak in the city, but as you will see, Mantua was very hard to take. So if this move worked, it would have make a huge deal, because Mantua was very well protected and well defended by the Austrians, as you will see. So without this unluck, maybe it could have changed a lot during this war.
Battered to pieces, but its walls are not yet breached. Napoleon is out of time. Field Marshal Wurmser is finally marching to Mantua's aid. He has divided his army into 4 columns. 2 central columns are advancing down the Adige Valley directly towards Mantua. Another column to the east is making a wide flanking march, while a 4th column, under General Kostanovic, advances down the western shore of Lake Garda, planning to seize Brescia and cut Napoleon's line of retreat. Massena comes under heavy attack and, severely outnumbered, abandons Rivoli and begins a fighting retreat. As soon as the news reaches Napoleon, he races to Castelnuovo, ordering Augereau, Despinois and Kilmain to join him as fast as possible. But suddenly, it is Kostanovic's column that's emerging as the greatest threat. General Sorre's troops at Salo are heavily outnumbered. They put up a stiff resistance, but are forced to withdraw. The next day, Austrian troops surprise the French at Brescia. They take the town, as well as an army hospital containing 2,000 French sick and wounded. Even Napoleon's wife, Josephine, en route to Brescia, is nearly captured in the chaos. Wurmser has wrong-footed Napoleon. Already outnumbered, he's lost 5,000 casualties. His left flank is in tatters, and there's a real possibility he may be encircled. It's the greatest crisis he has faced as an army commander, and will force him to make an agonizing decision.
So here you can see that that's on paper that's an horrible situation, and you are likely to say that fucked, if I can say. But Napoleon is Napoleon, so let's see what happens.
On the 31st of July, after 2 months of blood, sweat and sacrifice, General Serrurier is ordered to abandon the siege of Mantua. He is to send 2 of his brigades to reinforce Massena and Augereau, and withdraw with the rest of his troops to guard the army's line of retreat. 179 guns, plus ammunition and supplies which cannot be moved, are to be buried or tipped into the marshes.
So here you can see something extraordinary, about Napoleon, is that he made his general to give up siege of Mantua, although it took him a few months and probably losses. But that's because Napoleon isn't biased, because most people naturally have a psychological bias that is it's called the commitment bias. Is when as you are too involved in something, you don't want to give up or change your plan, because you think that you were too involved, and you don't want that you did that for nothing, and so you continue in your irrational decision. So that's something that affects us a lot. But Napoleon here, he is ready to give up, although he committed a lot in Mantua to a certain extent. He's ready to give up, cut his losses, and use the resources better, because he knows that he can use the resources better somewhere else. Although it costs him a lot, in the long term that's a better decision, so he's ready to make this sacrifice. And it's underlooked, I guess the word in English, but this thing, it looks like a detail, but this decision is really impressive and says a lot about Napoleon genius.
Napoleon needs every man he can get, because in the midst of the crisis, he has spotted an opportunity. Kostanovich's advance has caught him off guard. Lake Garda separates him from the rest of the Austrian army. Napoleon will concentrate his forces against Kostanovich, beat him in battle, then pivot.
You see, an average general would have let his soldiers on Mantua, or at least way longer. When Napoleon took them immediately, he didn't hesitate to make this sacrifice of losing the siege and many guns, and he takes them with him, and so fast he wants to attack one part than another part, although globally they have more numbers, here plus here plus here, but yeah.
Again to take on Wurmser. The French divisions are soon on the move. Kostanovich's troops reach Lonato, but here they encounter Massena's vanguard. The Austrians come under heavy attack, and with French reinforcements arriving, they have to pull back. The next day, the French retake Brescia, along with most of their supplies, sick and wounded. Then, Napoleon catches a lucky break. Wurmser has been on Massena's heels, harrying his rear guard as far as Peschiera. But now he receives reports there are French forces massing between him and Mantua.
It's not a blunder. That's because Napoleon, as I said, you see, it can be overlooked, this and considered as a detail, but yeah, he took the guys immediately with him, up, he go on one side, he takes decisions, don't hesitate to commit and to sacrifice some of his former commitments, and so he's so fast here, and this guy doesn't, he accepts as for an average general would be way slower in movement, in execution and in decision taking. So he was surprised by Napoleon's speed, and back then it was 18th century, so communication was very slow. So the time he understands that Napoleon is here, he would need to receive reports from these guys, and these guys need to know, and then give reports to him, and also reports aren't 100% reliable, so you need to understand what reports are correct or not, what are the most likely, is there a bluff or not. So yeah, it's I wouldn't say that's a blunder. I would say that's Napoleon very well made move.
Is his priority, so he swings south, away from Kostanovic, towards a city Napoleon has already abandoned.
Out of date.
By the time Wurmser realizes his error, it's too late. He has gifted Napoleon 24 crucial hours. A blunder, for which he will pay dearly.
Nah, I don't agree. That's not against. He's just out of date. That's against another general. He wouldn't have made this blunder. Yeah, so I think Wurmser was very good. I mean, for common general, but it's just that he wasn't on the level of Napoleon. You see, average general, Wurmser, Napoleon, you can see it, but way higher. It's just not on the same league as Napoleon. And also, he's one of the first one to be against him. After the wars, his enemies will become better because they will reform their armies and know better Napoleon. But Wurmser is one of the first to be against Napoleon, so he has also this excuse. He still fights in a more traditional way, accepting Napoleon to be a more traditional average general, and kinda underestimating Napoleon decision making and speed.
The 3rd of August sees confused fighting west of Lake Garda. One French brigade slips through the wooded ravines unnoticed, straight into Salo, causing havoc behind the Austrian lines. But the Austrians repel 3 attacks on Gavardo, and all seems to be going well until their own advance meets Massena's division at Lonato. Massena's counterattack is led by the 32nd Demi Brigade, which is becoming known as one of the Army of Italy's most feared units. "Bayonets only," Napoleon calls out, "and you, 32nd, maintain your glorious reputation."
Badass.
The lead Austrian brigade is routed. Colonel Junot, though wounded 6 times, accepts their commander's surrender. Kostanovich's force has been mauled. Fearing for the rest of his command, and with no word from Wurmser, he decides he must march back around Lake Garda to rejoin the army. The same day, 15 miles to the south, General Augereau's division fights an aggressive rearguard action near Castiglione, keeping Wurmser at bay while Napoleon deals with Kostanovic. Augereau begins with a bold attack on General Liptay's vanguard, driving it back to high ground near Solferino. But here, Liptay receives steady reinforcements as the rest of the Austrian army begins to arrive. Augereau keeps up the pressure, preventing an Austrian advance. And though there's a late scare when enemy cavalry sweep around his left flank, they are unsupported and soon pull back. For Augereau and his men, it is a long day of heroic action against a superior force, one which Napoleon will never forget. 12 years later, as emperor, he will make Augereau Duke of Castiglione, and always remind his critics, he saved us that day. Nevertheless, by nightfall, Augereau's division is at breaking point. Our soldiers are exhausted from fatigue and hunger. If you don't send me reinforcements, I won't be able to hold out. Next morning, French troops renew the attack on Kostanovic and quickly discover he's beating a hasty retreat. A major disaster is narrowly avoided when 3 lost Austrian battalions stumble into Napoleon's headquarters at Lonato. They call on the general to surrender. Napoleon responds by loudly ordering his grenadiers and artillery into position, then demands that the Austrians surrender to him or be put to the sword. It's a bold bluff. Few of his troops are anywhere near. But the Austrians meekly lay down their arms. As Napoleon swings his army round to take on Wurmser, the Austrian must decide whether to stand his ground or fall back to a stronger line behind the Mincio River. He chooses to stay put. By engaging Napoleon, he hopes to buy time for Kostanovic to regroup and resume his advance, and for Mantua to be resupplied. His reasoning is sound, but his intelligence is out of date. And
as said, yeah, you say it. The intelligence is out of date. That's basically one of the... I mean, there are many factors, but one of the factors why he got destroyed by Napoleon several times and will again, and why he was fooled into believing that Napoleon was still here.
He's underestimated the speed at which Napoleon's...
Here, again, you see, thing that I said, that Wurmser is underrated, if I can say it like that. Because, yeah, he underestimates Napoleon. I mean, he thinks that Napoleon is like average or good, or not average, I'd say like a good general, but he doesn't understand that Napoleon is a legendary general.
Forces will move.
He's unlucky to be one of the first. Doesn't want to allow the rest unless we have destroyed him. See the pace. Go.
At dawn on the 5th of August, the Austrian army is 4 miles east of Castiglione, formed up in 2 lines. Its northern flank anchored on the village of...
That's also why in World War I, you know, there is it gets quickly, it becomes quickly a trench warfare, a position warfare. The generals and the officers said to their soldiers, yeah, go in the no man's land, go rush, and they all get killed by machine guns, etc. It is not because they were air-tarded, the higher ups, but because there was this idea that came from the Napoleonic era that there was this attack doctrine. Basically, it was that people believed, army people believed that the ones that attack and take actions are the ones with the advantage. Because, as you can see, and we'll see in other episode, it gives Napoleon a huge edge to always be on the attack, to be so fast, to be so proactive. But the thing that they didn't understand in World War I is that it's contextual. You need to do some strategies around, and also that World War I was different from Napoleonic area. For example, Napoleonic area wasn't trench warfare, there weren't machine guns, stuff like that, so and no man's land to cross that. And the guns were way better. Well, here, the guns, they were slow to reload, not very accurate, so the attack doctrine was very sound, and even more with Napoleon's strategy and military reforms, but in the World War I context, much less.
Solferino, its southern flank on a well-fortified redoubt at Monte Medolano. Napoleon faces him with Massena's division in the north, Augereau's division in the centre, and Kilmain's cavalry in the south. He's also formed an elite unit of grenadiers and cavalry to be held back for the decisive moment. Napoleon doesn't seem to have much of an advantage. But he has 10,000 more troops converging rapidly on the battlefield. 5,000 under General Despinois, marching from Brescia. 5,000 more under General Fiorella, coming from the south.
If you see the map, you are like, yeah, okay, but the Austrians also have, these guys all around, also on top. So in fact, on paper, Napoleon doesn't have much of an advantage already here. That's about even. And then these are very far away. But the thing is that due to army organization and Napoleon talent, and also he knew how to select people, and he had what to call it, like the logistic guy, we would say, is what would become his one of his first marshals in terms of seniority. Is a guy that organized the army and that did it in very made a very efficient organization that makes it very efficient to execute Napoleon orders. So these people received rapidly the order to come and are able to execute it rapidly, while the Austrians, they can get theoretically as much help or even more than Napoleon, but their organization isn't as efficient, so it gives Napoleon a huge advantage.
Coming from the south. To buy time for these reinforcements to arrive, and to lure Wurmser out of position, Napoleon orders Massena and Augereau to attack.
You see, as I said with World War I, here you go, it will be a no man's land, and they will all get destroyed very rapidly. But here they can cross because the guns aren't accurate, they don't shoot far, you reload very slow. And even the heavy guns, the cannons, aren't that great. They have nothing in common with machine guns.
Je fire.
So you can see they go up to contact without much losses until they reach close range.
Then the French begin a feigned retreat. The Austrians take the bait.
And you see again something different. Trench warfare, people stayed in their trenches. You could not bait them also like that. So yeah, just come back on that. So sometimes people need to understand. The generals and over, they need to understand context. when warfare is different, the strategies and the tactics are different. It's common sense, but something to keep in mind.
Units advancing off the high ground, while Wurmser extends his right wing, looking to outflank Massena's division. Around 9 a.m, the sound of gunfire from the south alerts both sides to Fiorella's arrival, behind the Austrian left flank. Napoleon immediately orders Augereau and Massena to attack again, in earnest. Despinois' troops arrive to join the assault. But Napoleon has sprung his trap too early. Wurmser is not yet fully committed, and reacts swiftly. He organizes a new line to fend off Fiorella, and hurriedly recalls his right wing.
You see, Wurmser isn't bad. He's good. He's good.
But he cannot save the redoubt at Monte Medolano. Napoleon's aide-de-camp, Major Marmont, leads forward a battery to blast the position. His guns open a devastating cannonade, clearing the way for an attack. Around 10 a.m, the reserve grenadiers charge forward with bayonets.
Also, here you can see that there are way less guns on the French side than the Austrian side, but France is well known to be a very good artillery nation. I mean, since the 100 Years' War, that's basically the turning point of the 100 Years' War, is when the English had longbows, and they trained since they were young. It was required by the law. So at the beginning of the 100 Years' War, the English had the advantage. But toward the end, artillery started to get better, and French adopted it very fast. So they had the artillery advantage, and that's when it shifted from English dominance to French dominance. And since then, during Napoleonic time, yes, French artillery was known as the best in the world. And still today, we are still known to be, I don't know, the best, but quite good nation in terms of artillery. Although our army has been downsized, so it's not big, but in terms of quality, I think we are still known as good quality in terms of artillery.
Next, sweeping the Austrians off the hill. Meanwhile, to the north, the 4th and 5th Demi-Brigades surge onto the Solferino heights and seize the redoubt before Pozzacatana. Carried forward by their momentum, they storm the Solferino tower and village beyond, the shaken enemy falling back in disarray. The Austrians are hard-pressed along the line, and now French cavalry and Fiorella's troops threaten to cut off their retreat.
They are in very bad
While
position.
Napoleon is active, energized, urging troops forward, Wurmser seems to go into shock. A French émigré serving with him recalled, "He watched without seeing anything, saying anything, hearing anything. This brave old man, his head covered with white hair, did not think anymore."
He tasted Napoleon genius.
Finally, Wurmser orders
it's like, what can I do? Yeah, he committed all his forces. He's surrounded and getting pressed on every front. So yeah, what can he do?
general retreat back across the.
You see, there is Austrian help on the way. And I'm sure there weren't probably at the beginning more far away than the French troops that joined Napoleon. But they were just slower. You see, they came, I mean, there is no timer, but actually a few hours too late. So yeah, that's the difference again in speed.
River, covered by their cavalry and some late Austrian reinforcements. The French pursuit quickly peters out. After a week of forced marches in stifling heat, with little to eat or drink, Napoleon's men are close to collapse. But their general is content with what they have achieved.
Aussi, that's huge. And seeing Napoleon, you can easily think that attack is always better. Because he constantly attacks, it gives him huge advantage, and even against enemy in defense mode and in defensive position, he has like 3 times less casualty. That's crazy. But everyone isn't Napoleon. The Austrian army has disappeared like a dream, and the Italy that it threatened is now quiet. Napoleon.
Wurmser's army finds temporary refuge behind the Mincio River. But Napoleon immediately resumes the attack. Massena is sent north to relieve the French garrison at Peschiera and threaten Wurmser's line of retreat. The Austrian general has had enough. After ensuring the garrison of Mantua is fully resupplied and reinforced, he begins his withdrawal to the Tyrol to regroup and rethink. The French nip at his heels all the way.
Poor Wurmser.
Napoleon has just endured his toughest challenge yet as an army commander. And though initially wrong-footed by his adversary, he's displayed brilliant flexibility and his usual energy to weather the crisis and then triumph.
Clearly.
But Mantua remains the key to Italy, and while it stands unconquered, the Austrians will do everything in their power to save it. Wurmser will be back, and when he returns, he'll find himself on a collision course with Napoleon.
And just about Mantua importance, that some people can't get why Mantua is the key to Italy. So I don't pretend to be a Napoleon expert, or I'm not an historian either, or whatever, but my guess, at least that's I think that's one of the main factors, is that, they can bypass Mantua. There are a lot of lands around, but the issue is that you can bypass Mantua and attack and conquer more southern Italy compared to Mantua, but the issue is that Mantua has a huge garrison, it's well protected, and so they can choose the right time and they can disturb Napoleon's supply lines and also attack him from behind, encircle him, because if Napoleon goes more south, there will be enemy armies and Mantua will be higher, so can be attacked from frontal attack and from behind, so it's very dangerous. So I think that's the main reason why they say the key to Italy. It's a well-fortified city that can have a large garrison, and that is a threat to Napoleon, even if he bypass it.
Wurmser will be back, and when he returns, he'll find himself on a collision course with Napoleon, as he launches his own attack on Austria itself. Thanks again to Enlisted for sponsoring this video. Sign up using our...
Thanks, Enlisted. You can, I will, as always, I put the original video in the description, so you can watch it without commentary, or you can support their channel by, you can click the link in their description and register for this video game. I guess they get money from that, and they deserve it, because their videos are great. It's truly epic history. Their name is very fitting, so thank you to Epic History. As always, don't hesitate to give them support, even by subscribing and liking their original content. You can also like and subscribe this video. It's always a pleasure to see that it has the interest of some people. So growing in interest, I see that I start to get a few views and a few subscribers, a few likes. I'm happy that it pleased some people, and also it motivates me to continue, particularly this Napoleon series, because that's like 43 or at least episode in this series. So I don't know if I will watch all of the videos, but at least I will watch a few dozen at least, and we will see. So either way, thank you for having watched this video. Have a great day, and as well, I say to you, see you next time.